Hello friends, for today's video I wanted to go through a list of books that I'm hoping to get around to in the month of July. I am going through this list relatively early into the month of June, as a lot of these are things from the library and I'm trying to approximate when the holds are going to come in. I am estimating they'll come in roughly around the month of July. Some of them might be a little bit earlier, some of them might be during, and then some of them might be a little later, but these are the ones that I'm relatively certain I'm going to get soon. And then the last few are just going to be either backlist or self-pub or Patron Picks. So really excited about all of these. I'm going to start with the library holds though. The first one would be Spin of Fate. This is one that I have seen and I'm really excited to see a lot of people are doing reviews for. I am trying to keep myself from seeing that. I think a lot of you know that I try as much as possible to avoid, when it's a new release, having any outside perspectives influence what I'm going to say and what I might potentially think. As much as I can eliminate bias as possible, the better. In my opinion, as a reviewer, I just think it's really important. So I haven't watched anybody's reviews, but I'm relatively certain, based off of the kinds of thumbnails and titles I've been seeing, that people are really enjoying this one. Really hopeful, and it also just seems like it's going to be such a blast as a summer read, because it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited for Spin of Fate. In my notes I wrote Spin the Dawn. That's a different book. Spin of Fate though, so if I accidentally said Spin the Dawn earlier, I meant Spin of Fate. Next up we have The Last Blood Carver. One of my patrons very sweetly, I had done some kind of post over on Patreon. I don't even remember what the post was, but I had posted something and one of my patrons said, "I really appreciate the video you did recently talking about books that you think deserve more love, adult fantasy books you think deserve more love." So I thought I would mention a book that I think deserves more love, and that would be this one, The Last Blood Carver. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll see if I can get it from my library. And I think it's going to be coming in soon. So I don't know anything about it, and I'm kind of excited to keep it that way. It makes me feel like back when we were kids, for those of us of a certain age who didn't grow up with the internet necessarily, that when you would just hear from other people, you know, it's like whimsy. It's almost nostalgic when you get a recommendation. You haven't seen anything about the book beforehand. Anyway, The Last Blood Carver. Next up, another one I don't really know anything about. I have been so good at not getting things that I haven't read yet, because my local bookstores are phenomenal, and for years and years and years, if I saw a series at my local bookstore, because a lot of them are so inexpensive, and they would have the whole series, and I'd be like, well, I've heard good things, and then I would get the series, and then sometimes it would really work out because I would like the series, and other times I'd be like, oh man, I bought the whole series and I didn't really like the first one. So I've been really good about not doing that. I usually only really did it when it was used books anyway, but regardless, where I'm going with all of this is to say, I don't know anything about this book. I admit it was a cover buy. I hadn't heard anybody talk about it, but I was like, I'm going to take a chance on it. And that would be Heavenbreaker. So I did purchase a physical copy, pretty much just based off the cover alone, because I kind of wanted to replicate the feeling I was just describing of being like, what's this? I don't know. Let's find out. And so I got the physical copy, and it's very pretty. And the audiobook should be coming in from my library soon. So I'm really excited to jump into this one. I hope I like it. I'd be really sad if I finally took a chance again on something and then it was a failure. Maybe that would teach me right, though. But anyway, moving on. The Fireborn Blade. This is a fantasy novella. I've had this one on my radar for quite a while, and I put my hold in as soon as I could. The way in which the Libby app works is that usually if it's not in your library's system, it won't show up, but you can do a deep search, and that will show you books that aren't yet available, and then you can ask the app to notify you when it becomes available within the catalog. So I did that for this one, but other people beat me to it when it came to actually getting it first. So I don't know much. I don't know much about a lot of the first ones on this list because they're newer, and I am trying to avoid seeing things as much as possible. When we get to some of the later ones, I'll actually know some stuff about them. But Fireborn Blade, it seemed cool. And I only really know what I mentioned from the synopsis back when I did my anticipated releases for this one. Next up, Goddess of the River. I do know about this one. I am really excited about this one. I can't wait. Definitely going to be getting around to this very soon. KKE I thought was fantastic. I know that so many of us are done with retellings, but I think what I did a whole video recently about trends. I think what we're actually done with is the Greek retellings, because there's so many of those. There's a plethora of those. And what we haven't gotten are retellings and reimaginings from stories that most of us are not as familiar with because they haven't been done over and over again. And Goddess of the River is an example of that. I'm so excited for this one. I really thought the way the author executed the themes in KKE, which is not a first book or anything like that, they're different stories, but just in general, I really liked the writing. I really liked the execution of the themes. I thought as a standalone, it worked really well. I just thought it was fantastic. So I can't wait to read this one. Really excited, really pumped. Moving away from library holds now, the next one would be The Emperor's Edge. So my friend Christy has hyped this series up a lot when talking about the kinds of things we can't stand in relationships between characters. She has hyped this up as being the opposite of what annoys us. So for example, a lot of us don't really like insta-love. A lot of us would prefer to actually see a slow burn. A lot of us can't stand when characters prioritize their relationship over these intense stakes, sometimes world-ending stakes. So all those things that frustrate us, Christy has said a number of times, hey, if you can't stand those things, and if you're looking for the opposite, check out The Emperor's Edge. And it's a long series. There's a lot of installments. I think 9 books in the series. But it is supposed to be kind of fun and adventurous, and there's supposed to be a relationship that builds over the course of the series. One of the things that drew me to this, besides just that, which is nice, of course, but I am excited because another thing a lot of us would like to see more of is a different type of setting, and a lot of times a more modern looking setting in fantasy, which this one definitely has. And I'm really excited about that because I will forever and always love the kind of medieval inspired or almost sci fantasy books that just feel like a completely different world. I'm always going to be a fan of those sorts of things, and I do like historical fantasy, but historical fantasy seems to primarily take place within a certain time frame, and it's nice when we start to inch out of that a little bit. So I'm really excited to jump into the series. Fingers crossed I have fun with it. The next couple are Patron ones. So one of them would be the Patron standalone buddy read for this upcoming month, and that would be the Starless Sea. So forever ago, I picked up Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus, and to be perfectly honest, I don't remember basically anything about it. I didn't finish it. This was right around, I picked it up in 2020. I vividly remember I picked it up the day that I went to 5 different grocery stores on my dad's behalf because he was considered high risk given that it was 2020 and he was a little older. And I remember trying so hard to find him some eggs because it was when everybody was stocking up on... Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, I didn't finish it because 2020 was a disaster of a year. Very much for my personal life as well. So anyway, I never finished it. I don't really know anything about Erin Morgenstern and her writing. I just know it's very whimsical and it's kind of abstract and it feels very almost ethereal. So I am looking forward to that. I just don't really know a whole lot about the plot. I am prepared to be taken on this charming journey though. I hope I like it. And I hope my patrons like it too. And then the other patron one, I think a lot of you know that I try at least once a month, roughly, to draw from a little cup that is filled with a bunch of some of my patrons' favorite books. That way I can try and prioritize some of the things they really love. So I'm going to put in a clip of me drawing the next patron pick.
Luna, are you going to help pick? Luna Beer? Are you going to help? Okay, let's see what we get. Luna no longer cares. Let's see what we get. Ooh, Kushiel's Dart.
The last few are ones that I really hope I can get around to. They are some self-published works. We have the Echoes Saga, Echoes of Fate, I believe is the series name. The first one is Rise of the Ranger, so I have read the first one and the second. At the time that I'm filming this, I have completed the second one. So I want to, if I can, jump into the third and just keep going with this series, because similar to Emperor's Edge, it is a very long series, and I like to get through as much as possible within this year. I would love to finish it within this year if I can, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But anyway, I do want to continue on because I really enjoyed the second one, but I feel like because it's epic fantasy, each book is kind of building and building and building. At least the first two have. So I'd like to get to that third one, just really feel like I'm getting further into this epic world. And then also I want to continue on with the first book in this next series. I'm not sure the series name, I'm spacing on it, but the first one is Ascendant. So I am hoping within the month of June to read the second, and the month of July to read the third. And then I'll be caught up on that series, and then I'll just be waiting for the fourth one. That one is Dragon Fantasy, and then I mentioned this already, but Rise the Ranger is Epic Fantasy. If you're interested in hearing more about either of those, since I'm primarily being vague because the next ones are sequels, I'll have links to videos where I go a little bit more in depth about those. And then, if possible, if I like Emperor's Edge, I'd like to jump into the second one, as I think the first one's pretty short, and because it's a long series, I would also like to get through as much as possible this year. And then last would be the book Radiance. So this is a fantasy romance, I believe self-published work that a lot of people have said, for people that don't typically like fantasy romance, but they like fantasy and they want to like fantasy romance, that this is apparently a good one. So I want to see if I end up enjoying it also. And then that's it for the self-pub fantasy. I do, if I can, want to jump into Emily Henry's new work. It's a contemporary romance, so it's definitely outside the box when it comes to pretty much all the rest of these, which are all fantasy. So if possible, I'd like to read that as well. But anyway, that's it for some books that I'm hoping to get around to in the month of July. Let me know your thoughts. Are you going to be jumping into any of these? Have you also been picking up some more self-pub fantasy this year? Thanks so much for watching, though. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.